Today we are going to learn a new chapter from Social Studies textbook. Chapter 17. The name of the chapter is Preparing for Civic Life. Preparing for Civic Life. So civic, what is the meaning of civic? Relating to a city or town. Relating to a city or town. Or public life. Civic life means public life. How to prepare for leading a civic life. How to prepare for leading a public life. So already we know that early man lived in caves and lead a life just like any other animal in the jungle. So early man lived in caves and lead a life just like any other animal in the jungle. But he was intelligent. But human beings are intelligent. He understood the effects of his actions and thought about them. So he understood the effect of his actions and thought about them. And over the years, he made progress in every aspects of his life. So over the years, gradually, he made progress in every aspects of his life. He learned how to make fire. He learned how to make fire. And he invented the wheel. He domesticated animals. And he learned how to produce food. And then he left his nomadic life and settled down in progress, settled down in groups. So he left his nomadic life. Nomadic life means wandering from here and there. And some people are wandering here and there. It is known as nomadic life. So the human being made progress in every aspects of his life. He learned how to make fire. He invented the wheel. He domesticated animals. He learned how to make food and he left his nomadic life and settled down in progress. So these groups of settlements were the foreigners of the village, sign or symbols of village and town of today. So these groups of settlements were the foreigners of the villages and towns of today, for the symptoms or signs of the towns and villages of today's. Today we live in village, towns or cities with all the advantages of modern facilities in our houses. So nowadays we are living all the modern facilities, all the modern amenities. And this man has transformed himself from a wild animal into a civilized human being. So now man has transformed himself from a wild animal into a civilized human being. So it is without any external help. This happened without any external help. And today we live in society. Already we know that we live in a society. So a society is made up of individuals with their own rights and responsibilities. So in a society, each and everyone have their own rights and their own responsibilities. For the smooth functioning of the society, everyone should enjoy his or her rights and to perform his or her responsibilities. So the smooth functioning of the society, for the welfare of the people, everyone should enjoy her or his rights. They can enjoy their own rights and they need to perform their own responsibilities. In short, everyone should have a civic sense. So everyone should have a public sense. Everyone should have a civic sense. So civic sense means, what is the meaning of civic sense? The expected decent behavior of each individual in public places. So civic sense means the expected decent behavior of each individual in public places so as to maintain peace and harmony. So as to maintain peace and harmony. Harmony means agreement sense, peaceful manner. So civic sense means expected decent behavior of each individual in public places so as to maintain peace and harmony. So public places means places meant to be used by the public. So the places used by the public is known as public places. So they may be parks, places of worship, museum, restaurant, road, tanks, libraries, hospitals, schools, railway stations, etc. All these are some examples of public places. Which are the important public places? Which are some examples of public places? Which are they? Park, places of worship, that means church, mosque, temple, etc. Then museum, restaurant, roads, tanks, libraries, hospitals, schools, railway stations. All these are the examples of public places. And each of these places had its own sacredness. And each of these places has its own holiness or preciousness. So we have the responsibility to preserve and protect them so that they can be used by all. So we have to responsibility to preserve and protect them so that they can be used by all. So we need to protect the sacredness or holiness of the public places. Now we are going to learn how we can keep the holiness of each public places. For that, what we need to do? First one, places of worship. Places of worship. So every religion has its own places of worship. Every religion has its own places of worship. Hindus have a temple, then Christians church, Muslims mosque, and every religion has its own places of worship. Every place of worship is sacred. Every place of worship is sacred. And when we go to any place of worship, we should keep that in mind. So when we go to any place of worship, we should keep that in mind. Which one? Every place of worship is its own sacred. Then the behavior of people at these places of worship is governed by the laws of the particular religion. So the behavior of people at these places of worship is governed by the laws of the particular religion. So before we enter any place of worship, make sure that we know that at least the basic rules of that place. So before we entering in a public place or before we entering any place of worship, we make sure that we know at least the basic rules of that place. And we can learn it from our friends or from any other people in charge of that place. And be always polite in speaking in others. And be always polite in speaking to others. And use the words please, thank you, and sorry when required. So when we enter the place of worship, be always polite in speaking to others. And use the words please, thank you, and sorry if it is required. Next is public park. Public park also a public place. And parks are meant to refresh our mind and body. And parks are meant for refresh our mind and body. So we need to follow these rules. Which are the rules we need to follow here? Walk along the path. So walk along the path. Do not exercise your hands while walking. So do not exercise our hands while we are walking. Do not exercise our hands while walking. Do not exercise in the middle of the path. Do not exercise in the middle of the path. Do not stand around talking in groups in the middle of the path. Do not stand around talking in groups in the middle of the path. Do not pluck flowers or leaves. Do not pluck flowers or leaves. Do not litter the park with rubbish. Put them in litter bins. So do not litter. Litter means rubbish such as paper, cans and bottles left lying in an open or public place. So waste and all we are putting in a public place. We never do it. So do not litter the park with rubbish. Put them in litter bins. If you take your pet dogs to the park, clean up their mess. So if we take our pet dogs to the park, clean up their mess. These are the important rules we need to follow in a park. So which are the rules we need to follow in a park? Walk along the path. Do not exercise our hands while walking. Do not exercise in the middle of the path. Do not stand around talking in groups in the middle of the path. And do not pluck flowers or leaves. Do not litter the park with rubbish. Put them in litter bins. If you take our if you take your pet dogs to the park, clean up their mess. Next is tanks. Tanks are the sources of water for the villages. Tanks are the sources of water for the villages. Villages gets water from the tanks. So we should use them hygienically, and we should use them hygienically. For that, what are the things we need to listen or we need to give care? Do not wash cloth and utensils in the tank. Do not wash clothes and utensils in the tank. So do not wash cloth and utensils. Utensils means plates and all in the tank. Then take water from the tank and wash the cloth and utensils at the distance so that the waste water does not reach the tank. So take water from the tank and wash the cloth and utensils at the distance so that the waste water does not reach the tank. The dirty water does not reach the tank. We should keep a distance for washing the cloth and the utensils. There should be separate tanks for animals and human beings. There should be separate tanks for animals and human beings. There should be separate tanks for animals and human beings. Then animals should not given bath in the tanks mean for human beings. Animals should not be given bath. Animals should not be given bath in the tanks mean for human beings. Do not throw garbage in the tanks. Do not throw waste materials into the tank. Do not throw garbage into the tanks. So these are the things we need to take care when we are using the water in a tank. Then next is museum. Next is museum. So what is meant by a museum? A museum is a building in which objects of artistic, cultural, historical and scientific interest are kept for public viewing. So a museum is a building in which objects of artistic related to art. Artistic means the related to art. Then cultural, historical and scientific interest are kept for public viewing. So it is a public place. In a museum, the objects of artistic, cultural, historical and scientific interest are kept for public viewing. So it is a place or public place. The objects displayed there are precious items meant to be seen by many. So the objects kept in the museum, they are precious items meant to be seen by many. So we should behave in such a way that the things are not damaged in any way. So we need to take care because these things are kept for seeing the or viewing the or watching the public. So these things are not damaged in any way. So our behavior should not cause any inconvenience to other visitors. For that, which are the things we need to listen or we need to take care? Move in a line to see the objects displayed. Move in a line for seeing the objects displayed. Then do not run around in the museum. The items displayed are to be seen and studied. One by one. Then do not touch any of the items. We never touch any of the items. Then on the road, which are the things we need to take on the road? Road is a public place. We already know that road is a public place. There are drivers of vehicles and pedestrians on the road. Pedestrians means persons walking rather than traveling in a vehicle. So persons walking rather than traveling on a vehicle is known as pedestrians. So road is a public place. There are drivers of vehicles and pedestrians on the road. So if both are careful, we can avoid accidents. drivers and pedestrians both are careful, we can avoid accidents. follow these rules while on the road. While we are on the road. So we need to follow these rules while on the road. Which are the rules? Rules for drivers. Follow the traffic rules. Rules for drivers. First one, follow the traffic rules. Follow the traffic rules. Then use the horn to warn the pedestrians but do not bear them. Use the horn to warn the pedestrians, to warn the walkers, but do not blare them. Blare means make a loud sound. Do not blare them. Then use seat belt to minimize injury in accident. We need to use seat belt to minimize or avoid injury in accidents. Do not go ahead when the light is red or amber. Do not go ahead when the light is red or in yellow light. The cautionary signal only amber, yellow light. So do not go ahead when the light is red or amber. Do not overtake even if you are in a hurry. Do not overtake even if you are in a hurry. Always park only in places provided for parking. So always park our vehicle only in places provided for parking. So these are the important rules for drivers. Then rules for pedestrians. Rules for pedestrians. Cross the roads only at zebra crossing. So cross the roads only at a zebra crossing. Zebra crossing. Cross the road only at a zebra crossing. Look to both sides before crossing. So before crossing the road, look to both sides. Look to both sides before crossing. Then walk on the footpath. Walk on the footpath. If footpath is there, we should walk through that. Walk on the footpath. Do not run across railway tracks. Do not run across railway tracks. Use overbridge for crossing railway tracks. Use overbridge for crossing railway tracks. So do not run across railway tracks. Use overbridge for crossing railway tracks. So these are the important rules for pedestrians. Who are pedestrians? The persons walking rather than traveling in a vehicle. The persons walking rather than traveling in a vehicle are known as pedestrians. So these are the rules for pedestrians. Then other public places. Which are the things we need to take care in other public places? Other public places. First one, public places are meant for all. Public places are meant for public. So public places are meant for all. So we should behave in such a way that no one is put to inconvenience. We need to behave in such a way that no one is put to inconvenience. Do not smoke at bus stops or near children or pregnant women. So do not smoke at bus stops or near children or pregnant women. Passive smoking is dangerous. Passive smoking is dangerous. Then smoking in public places is prohibited by law. Smoking in public places is prohibited by law. Smoking in public places is prohibited by law. Then do not throw bus tickets on the road. Do not throw bus tickets on the road. Never throw bus tickets on the road. Stand in a queue at the bus stops. Stand in a queue at the bus stop. Cover your mouth and nose with a handkerchief while coughing and sneezing. So cover our mouth and nose with a handkerchief while coughing and sneezing. So cover our mouth and nose with a handkerchief while coughing and sneezing. So public places are the property of the nation. So public places are the property of the nation. So all of us have the right to use them. We have the right to use them. At the same time, we have the responsibility to protect and preserve them. We can use the public place, but at the same time, we have the responsibility to protect and preserve them. We need to protect and preserve them. And each one of us is responsible to see that public places are used properly and hygienically. And each one of us responsible to see that public places are used properly and hygienically. Public places are, we should properly, we need to use it and hygienically. It is not enough that we do not damage them. It is not good for we do not make any damage them. It is not enough that we do not damage them. We should also report to the concerned authorities if we see that public places are being misused. If we see any public places are being misused, we need to or we should report it to the concerned authorities. This will help the authorities to maintain the places properly. So, this will help the authorities to maintain the places properly. Thus, we can lead a comfortable public life. Thus, we can lead a comfortable civic life. So, I hope that the chapter is clear. All of you read the chapter several times and complete the notes and study it. Thank you.